Alright guys, so I'm so excited to do this video today because today, November 29th, Heron Preston opened up his first store on 55 Patterson Street, Fashion Walk, Causeway Bay, Hong Kong.
Jackery Beach. La la. Bounce, 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 bounce. Yeah. Bounce. If y'all ain't know, it's love, baby.
Okay, so if you're watching this video and you know all about Heron Preston, then this video is definitely not for you. But if you're somebody like me that's really only limited to the little bit of information and what you see on the Saks rack and the Neiman Marcus racks of Heron Preston, then this video is probably for you. So let's just go ahead and do a quick breakdown of who is Heron Preston, where did he start, and why is it so monumental for him to open up his first store in Hong Kong. So if you're like everybody else on Instagram who follows Virgil Abloh and you follow Off-White, you also might even follow Heron Preston. And with that, I think a lot of people think that he was born in New York City. But really, Heron Preston was actually born in San Francisco. And to my knowledge, in 2004, he had transferred to a college in New York City. While attending Parsons School of Design, he had started a blog and then later met Virgil Abloh, who was also doing blogging. Of course, as you might have already guessed, Virgil and Heron Preston were doing blogging of either fashion and things of the city, just more so contemporary fashion and or pop culture. And Heron Preston says, and I quote, "We were the same nerdy streetwear kids posting on the same message boards." Now I know if you're a streetwear connoisseur, I think your first thing you're probably thinking of at this point is Bin Trill. But hold on, I'm not there yet. Because sometime later, Preston had landed a job at Nike. And during the time that all of that had happened, Virgil had already been working with Kanye West as one of the either creative directors or creative designers for the Watch the Throne album. And then later on in 2012, Virgil gets off of tour with Kanye West, links back up with Heron Preston, which later then forms Bin Trill. For a lot of people, they really don't know what Bin Trill is. I myself didn't know what Bin Trill was until maybe about 2.5 something years ago. And if you've never heard of Bin Trill, I really don't blame you because it really didn't make too much of a name for itself for what it was. But if you have seen it before, it is more recognized as a brand that uses more of like the drippy type of logos, very in-your-face graphics, and they're also very popular for putting the hashtags on the New Era hats. The bigger reason why you've probably never heard of Bin Trill is because Heron Preston and Virgil Abloh openly admits that that was more so an experimental brand for them. And for someone like myself, I really don't blame them for making something like that because you have to experiment in the very beginning in order to know what you're doing later on. But before I dive too deep into what Bin Trill really was, as we all know, it never really continued to grow, and Virgil had branched off to either move on to Pyrex, which later turned into Off-White, and Heron Preston obviously started Heron Preston. Preston actually named his brand name back when he was in high school. And I think a lot of people think that its first name is Heron, last name is Preston, but really Preston is his middle name because the real name is Heron Preston Johnson. But as he said in articles is that Heron Preston sounds a lot more smooth than Heron Johnson. I guess maybe Heron Johnson would sound like a ketchup brand or something. Now flash forward to maybe even about a couple years ago, now we kind of see the emergence of Off-White, the emergence of Virgil and his brand really becoming this mecca monopoly type of fashion brand. And during the mix of Virgil really blowing up and becoming what he is today, and also even having many shows at the Paris Fashion Week, Virgil and him tag teaming together had pushed Preston to really come up with his own collection that was more than just screen printing t-shirts in their garage. It was more so cut and sewn pieces. It was pants, it was shirts, it was hats, it was socks. It was a full-on collection, which he later called the 40-piece collection. And now, flash forward to contemporary times, November 29th, 2018, Heron Preston is sold in many high-end stores like Neiman Marcus, he's sold in Saks, and of course he has his own online website. But as of today, he opened up his brand new store in Hong Kong. I think some of you actually might know Heron Preston as the brand that's right behind Off-White. And at times, it does kind of seem that way. Preston does admit that his brand is not as developed as it should be, but really you can't blame him. And for how young Heron Preston is for the work that he does, a lot of the things that he does is actually extremely impressive, especially as a fashion designer, to go out there and and redesigned the uniforms for the NYC Department of Sanitation. He actually based that whole line off a non-waste theme because he himself realized that the fashion world is actually extremely wasteful at the end of the day. And I think those are the small details for Heron Preston and his brand that kind of just separates him as far as a fashion label. But before I dive too deep into his story and start messing up some of the factual information about Heron Preston, I did want to read this one caption that he had on his Instagram about opening up his new store. And Preston says, and I quote, "I can't believe I started hand printing t-shirts in San Francisco and now I'm here. I want to thank my amazing team for the love and support. Stop by tomorrow, November 29th, starting 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. This is like the basis of the whole reason why I made this video. I'm extremely fascinated with people like Heron Preston and having such a relatable story. Maybe not so much the success part, but more so, you know, here comes this kid that started screen printing shirts in San Francisco and he kind of liked design, so he went to school for design, and then he ended up blogging and then meeting Virgil, and then, you know, years, I guess, I don't know how many years later at this point, has now opened up fashion brand store in Hong Kong, which is one of the shopping capitals of the world. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I just absolutely love the motivation that is behind it, and you really sometimes just never know exactly where your creativity or exactly where your own ambitions might end up. So Heron Preston, if you are watching this video, which I'm sure you are not watching this video, all I wanted to say is congratulations, and that it's extremely motivating to hear that basically it's possible. Okay guys, and not to make this video too long, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope some of this was informational. I hope some of it is, I guess, gem worthy for you guys. But I'm gonna go ahead and close it right here. Make sure you guys keep it locked for all your latest information on music, fashion, and culture. It's your boy, and I'll see you next week. Peace.
Straight up.